Manny, you know how I start the show every week. I
Yes.
say, hello, Manny.
Hello, Thomas. How are you?
I'm pretty well. I have a gin and tonic. No peanut butter beer. I'm sure you'll be very pleased.
Thank God. I would
Yeah,
I would have to literally leave
I
this
know.
entire server otherwise.
I know you get very triggered, which is not fair in my opinion. But
It's just, if we're
um,
being honest.
well, we have a guest today who is nice enough to offer come on the show, hang out, and talk wheels. We got Zach from Turn Racing. And Zach, how do you feel about peanut butter beers? We'll start there.
Never tried it. I'm not a beer person. I've heard the peanut butter whiskey is a big thing, but I haven't tried that either.
Brian, he was telling me that Brian Lockwood, he's on the show 2 weeks ago. He said that the peanut butter whiskey with coffee was really good. So,
Oh, dude,
so
the
uppers
new
and
version of
downers.
the Irish coffee. Yeah.
Why are I'd just like to reiterate once again, why the fuck are we drinking peanut butter? Can we stop that? Can that end?
No, we're not stopping. If I had a peanut butter beer, I'd be drinking it right now. Anyway, today we're just going to touch on PESC. We're going to touch on Coke. We're going to talk Road to Pro. We're going to talk GT4 because Manny is loving GT4. And then we're going to get right into wheel talk. I want to know more about the DIY stuff because I almost went the route of downloading some files from your site, Zach. But I got cold feet and just bought the RS3 wheel.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd love to tell you that anyone who comes on the show, I pitch a bunch of money and buy something nice, but that would be a complete lie. I just think it's a really good product. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's like a better endorsement, right? That must be.
Yeah. No better than that right there.
Okay, Manny. Go ahead, Zach.
No. Yeah, I could talk all day about wheels. It's kind of my life the last 4 years.
Yeah, well, Manny and Nick hate it when I talk about wheels. So,
Well, let's be very clear. So we don't hate it when Tom talks about wheels. What we hate is having to hear about wheels 3 months every day, literally at least twice a day, just comparing wheels back and forth, refusing to make a decision. And so we banned him in our group chat from making any more comments about wheels unless he was posting receipts that he's finally buying one.
Well, I did.
Well,
I did it.
I'm happy you finally did. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing
Great question from the chat.
more intimate. Yeah, what's up?
Well,
Kev says, question for the guest, why are you reinventing the wheel?
Reinventing? Well, I try to avoid cliches.
Not Kev. He likes cliches. In the chat, Thomas, I take a milk stout though. Yeah, I would be down for that too. Man, let's talk PESC quick from last Saturday. I think the only thing that we need to touch on, well, Sebi Job with the double win, but the thing that I really want to talk about is the double Coanda Yeet.
Yeah, not the best look, I think, for Coanda, especially given the season they've had where they've been pretty dominant on the pointy end of the field. I have to say that any situation which you yeet your own team to Saturn is not good, especially in the context of the championship. So
I would have liked to been a fly on the wall for that debrief in the Coanda house with Mitchell.
Yeah, especially since they were sitting next to each other, so big spice energy.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, they both live there's a number of Coanda drivers that live in a house in Germany, and Mitchell.
I think it's Dave Williams. Is it Dave? I think Dave.
Dave's there. Yep.
And then Mitchell DeYoung, who is jack of all trades god on dirt, road, and oval.
Very good.
And then the road sim racing goat, Joshua Rogers.
Isn't Mitchell American though? Did he move to
Germany?
Moved to Germany?
Yes, he did. Yes,
wow.
he did.
And East Sword says Mitchell Dagon. Kev says H for SR house when. I have enough people live in my house. I don't know if you know how many children I have.
It's
Kev.
true. Tom has a farm.
And also Mac Backham lives there. I think Manny. I think that's everyone. I hope I'm not missing anyone. But anyway, Mitchell and Josh. So Mitchell kind of blocked Sebi late, kind of moved into braking. They touched, and Mitchell hit Josh. They were P1 and 2, and they both went off in the sprint race. But they were sitting, in the same room. So it was probably kind of, it was like both of them moving too much, both Seb and Mitchell. But I think that was probably a little more tension than usual at the Coanda house that evening. So,
well, at least with Formula One, when teammates do it, they go home to different homes. They have to live together. Like they're gonna see each other at breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, that must be kind of weird. I mean, I imagine it's, man, I don't know, because I know it was like a bigger thing with esports in like other games. Oh God! No,
games.
Please no hate email. Please. Other games. I know teams have done this before, but this is kind of the first thing in racing. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably an interesting situation for them. Probably cool. Oh God! See, I'm getting blazed in the chat already. I know. I'm sorry. It's real. It's just him.
You want to know my opinion though on games is?
Oh no!
I believe that.
Cut his mic.
Racing is a game. Basketball is a game. Football is a game.
Yeah.
Everything you said there checks out.
No, I agree. So the real thing is also a game. No, I agree. Yeah, it is. It definitely.
So
is.
does that make iRacing the FIFA of racing?
Now that I won't comment.
Oof.
Good call.
Oof.
See, but no, I think if I play with my thumbs, then it's the FIFA of racing, Manny. Know what I mean?
You can definitely play iRacing with a controller. I've seen it.
When you take a number 2, right?
You could. I think someone in the league that Here for SR is sponsoring is gonna run this week on a controller. Kind of sketches me out. I guess his wheel broke. I was like, oh no, please.
If you can let me know who this person is, so I know to not be there, that'd be great.
Okay,
thanks.
Can't wait. Anyway, that was the big thing on Pesk. Seb looking pretty good, but Josh still, as far as I know, pretty far in points.
Yes.
Let's talk Coke. Did you watch this race, Manny?
I watched chunks of it. Friend of the pod, Garrett Main's first Coke top 10.
Very good. Yes, I'm proud of the little man.
Clamp it with a dub.
Yeah. So, and his teammate finished second. Andrew.
Yeah, good day for that team.
So, the race was pretty good. We got to see the new Atlanta, the quote unquote new Atlanta with the new surface. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good watch. They're passing. You have multiple lanes. I'm not going to say dynamic track is alive. Please don't ask me. I'm not going to say it. Not going to comment even. But Atlanta was good, fun, and yeah.
How many lanes were there?
Manny, I'm not going to go there. I told you I'm not answering. Well, not doing that. Okay, Manny, that was Coke. I just want to say Nick Ottinger is top of the points. So, followed by Zielinski, Conti, Luza, and Jimmy Mollis. So, there you go. Oh, no, this is the 2020 standings. You think they'd update this sooner?
Oh, no.
It did seem wrong. It did seem wrong.
Oh, no.
Well, we don't know who's leading. That's really on brand.
Someone, somewhere. I mean, you have a 2.5% chance of being right if you throw a name out there.
Here we go. Kerwin, top of the table, followed by Leahy, Clampett, Luza, Conti.
Look at that.
That's better. Thank you, enascar.com. Okay. Let's talk a little bit. Well, actually, I want to ask Zach. So, Zach, is your sim of choice iRacing necessarily?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, but you vary more than say myself or Manny, perhaps.
As far as like sim racing, I've only ever. Well, I mean, other than as a kid doing Gran Turismo, all of those. But yeah, like taking it serious and building like an actual rig, I've only done iRacing.
Okay. Well, I've only done a little bit of R Factor 2, but mostly it's been iRacing in my adult life. Anyway, did you race this week, Zach?
Me and Manny were talking earlier. I actually sold my rig off about a year ago to pay for equipment, and so I unfortunately don't get to. I'm
In
out.
the meantime, do you roll quarters down the hill? Do you have like an elevated sidewalk?
I don't really have a way to get my fix. It's a real problem.
Dang.
Disaster.
Well, you have, and you have all this nice gear, just.
Marble racing, great suggestion from the chat.
Ooh, eSpeed Sports says, get this man a slot car track.
I've watched the Marble Olympics on YouTube. Pretty phenomenal. Check it out.
I'm actually, I'm a slot car man myself. So I don't know if you guys are, but let me tell you, 132nd home stuff. I should find a picture of the. Maybe I'll post it on the Discord later, guys. I had a big home routed track back in the day. It was pretty serious.
I've only seen a big kid. Whatchamacallit? I've only seen a big kid slot car track once, but it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It's very fun. Very fun. Maybe you should start doing slot car products, Zach.
Yeah, branch out.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. Don't listen. But no, that's interesting. So, before we get into turn racing, and I have lots of questions for you. Probably Manny does as well. Manny, I know you've been dying to talk about GT4. I know you have. Please talk it up. Please talk up the new GT4.
Okay.
The build, please.
Beyond adding a new GT4 car and making the Porsche not a pogo stick when it hits a curb, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge has gone through a dramatic reinvention. I don't know what is in the water lately for drivers of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, but the racing has been so good. I have done 2 races this week, both of them bangers. 2 and 3 wide for multiple laps without hitting each other. When people make mistakes, they've been apologizing to each other. When moves are unrealistic, they back out of the corner. I've never seen anything like it. I am fully on board the IMPC stand train.
Are you sure you weren't driving race room, Manny?
I thought about it briefly. I'm like, this is too clean and respectful. What's going on here?
Yep. I could say something else. I'm not going to.
Well, I think like having slower cars, like GT4 touring cars. I mean, it really lends itself well to just more fun.
I fully agree. I think that the GT4 and TCR are probably perfect in terms of pace for like wheel-to-wheel action, and they have just enough grip to not kill you, but not enough that everything turns into a downforce and dirty air fest. But I've been very impressed with the expansion of the series, and look forward to seeing more content in that series.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't driven the McLaren yet, but I have driven the Cayman, and it's so nice right now. It's like a little Porsche Cup that's like easy to handle, and I love the Cup, but I don't think the Cup's for everybody. I think I might be able to say the Cayman might be for everybody.
Yeah, the Cayman's in a really good spot right now, where I used to hate it, as you might recall, Tom, because it drove like a pogo stick. Like if you got anywhere near a dip or a bump or a curb, like the car was just gonna keep bouncing forever.
I recall, yes, all too well. I'm afraid. Road Atlanta was like, yep.
It made me quite unhappy. Now, not unhappy. Manny fully GT4 stand.
I like it when Manny's happy. Of all the things I like.
Wow.
What are you drinking tonight, Manny?
Nothing crazy, just a shock top. Good time of year for it. It's like mid-70s, light breeze. This is perfect shock top weather.
Kev says, but are you really racing if you're not getting run over and verbally assaulted? No, you're
That's a
thinking of
good point.
you're thinking of dirt oval.
I must be running a league. Obviously, that's the only reason I wouldn't
accidentally
be
in the
verbally
host.
assaulted.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
There's some really well organized leagues. It's crazy. This one seems to happen at the same time every other hour.
Speaking of, here for SR GT4 League starting in late April or early May.
Wow.
Yep.
Huge.
That's right.
The best part is
races.
I'm the co-host. Still don't have the schedule. Have no idea when I'm supposed to show up. Love to see it. Best organization.
Well,
yeah, leagues are a lot of work. I've always heard that.
I'm about to hear that from Manny when I make him do it. It's 12 rounds of Oran Park, says Kev. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh man. Okay. So, but yeah, GT4 is great. Just in general.
Winner gets a shipping gift card, so that shipping will be free on your turn racing purchase. That'll be the winner prize. You can't actually have a wheel, and you don't get a discount on the wheel, but you do get a discount on the shipping.
I'll pay for your shipping. Shipping was really reasonable, by the way, Zach, for your wheel.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's
Zach.
like domestic US, yeah, I've got really good rates with UPS, and I've got it pretty much as good as I can get with DHL for international. So
very good.
It was really good. It was like, I want to say it was like $12 or something. It was really.
That's
good.
quite good.
Really good.
Speaking of DHL, so I hadn't brought this up previously, but I currently have a bone to pick with DHL.
Oh my God.
Where I discovered after ordering a 143 scale model LMP2 that DHL, due to COVID, has dramatically reduced the amount of air freight they're shipping. So this thing that I bought from Germany that I was expecting to be here in 2 to 3 weeks was actually being shipped by sea from Frankfurt to Texas. So when will I see it? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's something that happened. It depends what they send it. It should be DHL Express, which is by plane. Because if they do it through like the post office and like I don't know exactly what service that is. It could be 4 to 6 weeks easy.
Yeah, okay. I am on. I think the order was January 28th. So they told me if I don't get it this week to hit them up so they can contact DHL.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
But wow, I mean, I probably could have walked. I probably could have walked to Germany and back in this amount of time. But it's fine. I'm fine.
It doesn't sound like it's fine.
I'm not salty.
I'm gonna touch on RTP quick. Atlanta. Actually, so we got P16. Brian running the same car, got P5 in split. Manny, do you remember split 7, 6?
6 or something. Yeah, it was quite a high split.
Good result for Brian. I went for the long home run fuel save. I think I was the only car to try it, and ran out of fuel coming into the dogleg on last lap. But we had already gotten passed by a good chunk of cars, so P16. But it was an excellent race. Atlanta is awesome right now. You can run the wall. It is.
Is it only
sick.
The wall, though? I need to know how many lanes there are.
I'm not answering that. Stop asking me. I'm not talking about it. It was really fun, though. That's what I'll say. I'm going to leave it there. That's all I'm going to say. Manny, don't ask me.
All right, fine. Whatever.
There was 2 lanes. It was great.
Okay.
Zach, so how long has turn racing been a thing? Can you tell me about do we have an origin story? Is the origin story good? If it's not, you could just make it up. That's fine too.
It's, I don't know if it's good or not, but it's kind of weird.
I'm ready.
We love weird.
I'm ready.
We love weird.
So what I was doing, when I started the idea for building wheels, I was working in graveyard shift at a front desk of a hotel and day trading during the day. And that was 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, it kind of grew. It just grew from there. I wanted, what I wanted to do was, it's pretty hilarious. They kind of say, like, when you're starting a business, I've kind of said this before, that the 2 things that you have going for you are sort of like naivety and bravery. And so if I had known what it actually takes, I would have never done it. And so my idea was, if I just start building wheels, I could make $10,000 and make like an epic sim rig.
Sure.
And
Seems fine.
yeah, I would say once I had burned through my savings pretty quickly, and also I realized that I didn't know nearly as much as I should about manufacturing. I took up a job at a local machine shop instead, and wanted to learn about manufacturing. And so I did that, and I was working full time in a machine shop
As a machinist?
As a machinist. And I mean, I've always been pretty highly motivated. So I mean, I was the hardest working person there. I always believe you got to have a side hustle, but you got to be the hardest working person at your job when you're there. And so, so I kind of went up the ranks pretty quickly. And it's kind of funny, but I was working full time. I would say 40 hours a week, and then I was probably putting in at least 40 hours a week doing turn stuff. And I did that for 2 years, and I finally got sort of like the best job at my machine shop, which was a tooling designer. When I got that job, I had a record month sales wise in the business and quit.
You work in metals at the machine shop, just out of curiosity?
No, CNC machine operator, and also I was doing like a robotic cell, working with like their robots.
You guys machine mostly metal? Because I'm actually a production planner at a machine shop where we do all plastics.
Oh yeah, it was steel and aluminum.
Sure. Which is surprisingly different, actually. Surprisingly enough. I mean, maybe one would assume that, but our shop looks pretty different than a metal shop. I digress. Not particularly important, but I'm curious because that's kind of what I do daily too.
I feel like not particularly important and you kind of go together, Tom. So I just figured it was kind of emblematic of watching this pod.
Well, it's my show, Manny. I talk about what I want to talk about. So whatever. Okay, sorry, Zach. Please. So you quit the job after 2. So you got the best job, and then Turn had the best month of sales, and you're like, I'm out of the day gig. And that was what, 2018?
2018. Spring of 2018, I quit, and I was renting out. At the time, I was renting out a shop space and living above it at my parents'. So they have like a separate shop that I rented out from them and lived in it essentially. And then last year, finally got engaged, and then we bought a house out in the country. So now I have my own space. Finally.
Nice.
Congratulations on the engagement. As someone who's gotten recently married in the last few months, I have a lot of empathy for the stress that kind of goes into planning all that jazz. So congratulations and my condolences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hard part was keeping business production going while moving and simultaneously renovating my shop. So that was that was a hectic couple months, but I'm settled in now, and so I love it now.
Good,
man. So, did you start making you started making wheels right away, like the wheels proper, or was it some sort of because I've seen a couple different products in the past and present, but the original deal was wheels proper, like a full on I will ship you a completed ready to go wheel.
Yeah, that was the idea. The thing is, like, the first thing that I made was actually an R8 style wheel, but completely out of wood. And then I was like, and also hand shaped. I mean, it was ridiculous. But then I just started going on a deep dive. I'm self-taught in everything that I do. And so, yeah, I kind of realized quickly that, okay, I need to figure out what's this CNC thing all about. And then I need to figure out what's this 3D CAD modeling all about. And yeah, I can list off, I don't know, endless amounts of things I had to learn along the way.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, especially like, it seems like, and I mean, so I do a lot of this stuff daily, and some of like the the things that people probably don't realize how complicated hard is. Like, so I know that on your website you can buy bare bones, like wheel plates for like a DIY project. But even such a simple thing of like, I can buy the plate with the urethane grips on it. Like that process actually sounds like pretty complicated. You had to make the mold, you had to do the thing. I mean, even something simple like that. I mean, I wouldn't know the first thing about.
Man's got a gift.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a simple. Like the grips aren't a particularly simple shape. First off, if you're gonna do it in CAD, however you did it, I don't know how you made the mold, but it's just in general, like the whole deal is a process, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, especially when you're starting with no money too. So when you have no money and no experience, but then you want to make a thing, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And you have to also be crafty too. You kind of have to fail fast, but fail cheaply. And so I went about it at a certain way to be able to iterate really quickly, but also really cheap.
Man, the wheel production thing is like, it's pretty competitive too, which, and props to you for making a wheel at a pretty good price. So the RS3 completed was 617, is that right?
Yeah.
And that's 8 buttons, 2 funky switches, and 3 rotaries on a aluminum plate, Alcantara covered wheel with magnetic shifters. I mean, all in all, it's a pretty good price.
That's probably $200 to $300 cheaper than I would expect it to be.
Right.
Just based on where the market is right now.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot that goes into it too, because one thing that I've really have been bad at promoting this are the components inside the RS3 are basically the best electronics that you can buy. Like the buttons are APEM mech, which are rated for 10 million cycles. The rotary encoders are ELMA, which are basically the best rotary encoders on the market. And and so the shifters too, I could put, as long of a warranty as you want on those, they're not going to wear out. And so yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, I looked at making a button plate because I have access to CNC routing at work, so I could do something like that. But I was surprised on just how much good electronics cost. Like just the buttons, like if I want to buy something in not a large volume, not an inexpensive thing to not have really cheap buttons. It really surprised me. I mean, it's true. So I think that one does need to factor that kind of value and cost into the wheels. So like when guys are looking for, a custom solution, that's like not something we can overlook. If a wheel is cheap, you could really cut some cost on like the electronics like that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I kind of really model and gather inspiration from Elon Musk and Tesla. You can think whatever you want, but like especially when making a thing and starting out, when you're doing low volume, you fundamentally have to have it be high price, and so to have it high price, it has to be really high quality for people to want to buy it. And then you can iteratively go switch to a high volume, low price, which is what I'm really working at now, because I think there's still gaps in the market that I'm hoping to target in the next 6 months. And so, yeah, we'll see. But it's definitely a process.
Kevin asked in the chat, how have you been able to manage inventory during COVID, and did you see a boom in the COVID times? Did you sell more wheels in the past year?
Yeah, I would definitely say that there was a boom. Even if you just look at like the Google Trends stuff, this time last year, the searches for sim racing just exploded, and it sort of leveled off back to where it was. But I would say overall, we all know that the market in our industry is growing, though.
Just in general, like year to year, you think?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of agrees this. But right now, I mean, pretty much everyone has a lead time, and so that
Yep.
basically says that the supply can't quite keep up with the
Right.
demand, or they're working on ramping up, and that's certainly myself included. And so, if I had a staff of people and more money, I probably wouldn't have a lead time. In an ideal world, and my goal is to not. I want to be able to ship everything like Amazon, say day of, but there's just a lot more of investing and sort of, I would say, process is like with the product too. You have to go higher volumes, which also means longer lead times when you're ordering products. And I'm sort of trying to learn all that on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as someone who, has some experience with planning, logistics systems and trying to develop scalable processes, like it's no joke. There's a reason that people can get master's degrees in logistics systems. Like big respect to you on trying to figure that out. It's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I would say making things is underappreciated. It's actually quite difficult.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I
yeah,
fully agree.
I would agree. That's interesting that you mentioned that. I do think that is true, just in general, on how much effort it takes to make anything. Not to mention, high end sim equipment. But so now you have, I've watched some of the videos, and you have like a small table CNC at the shop, right?
Yeah, that's what I started out with. That was like my first piece of equipment that I bought, and I've upgraded it probably half a dozen times. And so I really am not using it. I've actually been, as I've been growing, all of my manufacturing is now outsourced, because in order to, especially with CNC machining, coming from that background, you realize if I want to buy a decent production CNC machine, I'm going to be starting 40,000 minimum, and I just didn't have that money.
Yep.
And so you have to outsource that stuff, and so I actually now, it's kind of weird because I have like this crazy maker space of woodworking equipment, different kinds of 3D printers, different kinds of lasers, seeing a couple different CNC machines, and now I don't actually manufacture anything, I just assemble. And so I have this like weird maker space of like I can basically make anything I wanted. But yeah, but
It's
yeah,
more
it's what I had
efficient
to
for
do.
you not to do that. Yeah.
It's what I had to do, to scale, and also for quality. I mean, I've my suppliers now that I'm working with, they make stuff way better than I could.
Yep. No, I understand. I understand that perfectly. Yeah, I do vendor quality, I do internal quality, and yeah, sometimes sometimes other outsourced vendors really have they got the capability, they're pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the experts. They're the ones that have been doing it for 30 years or whatever, and I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So let them do what they're good at. Especially now, being a one-man shop, um, I have to delegate more and more.
So what I don't know. Is there a product that you'd want to talk us through with the what comes in and what happens in your shop?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say right now the project that I haven't announced too much yet that I've been working on is my second version of my button plate. I've kind of been quiet the last couple weeks. I haven't even been posting on social media as much as I should, but it's more so that I've been putting, I would say, about 200 hours in the last 30 days into design and engineering, and from kind of top to bottom, getting everything done. And so yeah, there's a lot of thought that went into it.
Yeah. So I mean, when you're prototyping, you do that in house, or you doing that, you still outsourcing any prototype stuff that you get?
Well, that's the cool part about my space now is I have all the equipment to do the rapid prototyping myself. And
Yeah.
so that's where the value of that now is, mostly just FDM 3D printing, honestly. And so, like people say how like my grips are good, and it's because I can design my grip, print it 13 hours later or whatever, have it, hold it, make it change, and then go through another iteration. And I can go through a dozen iterations in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so like with my R8 shape, I probably went through probably a dozen, and it doesn't cost me anything, and it's fast, and I can get a perfect shape. So that's really where the value of that is.
That's that's really interesting, the 3D printer. And my shop just recently got one, and I'm hoping that we can do a little bit of prototyping stuff too. Because I mean there's a need for it, and it is way faster than any sort of tooling that you need, especially if you're like, so I mean I do plastics, and if you're going to injection mold something, you need a tool. I mean, that's we might be talking months, really.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I'm with my second version button plate. I have a couple injection molded parts, and there's a lot of design and engineering that goes into just the part, and then you have the tool that the tool maker is gonna make, and it has to be perfect the first time. And so that's why having something like an FDM 3D printer and a resin 3D printer for smaller parts that can basically exactly mimic an injection molded part, I can pretty much make anything and prototype anything I want essentially for free.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really interesting. I did want to talk about if you'd talk to us a little bit about the DIY section of your website, and what it would take someone. I mean, without getting like too much into it, maybe what it would take someone to, what they'd need, how to go about it, what kind of experience they should have, because it's really interesting. Like you have 4 or 5 wheel designs on there that someone could download all the files from. They can even buy like the bare bones carbon or aluminum plates from you, and in theory, just off the shelf products, and they could make a wheel.
Yeah, and it's been growing a lot. And I was back when I was like in the very Gary Vaynerchuk, he said something that he's like, if someone's going to put me out of business, it might as well be myself. And so I kind of took that to heart, and my designs that I really wasn't using, I would say like to make anymore, I just sort of redesigned it so that a DIY person could make it themselves. Because I found out like in 2018 or 2019, like having 5 different wheel designs with all unique parts and at a low volume just isn't like, it's not a thing. You can't do it that way. And so I had to kind of pick and choose what I was going to manufacture. And then I had thousands of hours. I mean, in the last 5 years, just CAD time modeling, I have thousands of hours of different things that I've made and that I've put time into, and I figured it's a good way to give back. There isn't a whole lot, when I was learning, there wasn't much information on DIY stuff for sim racing, especially with like mold making. I spent thousands on learning how to do that through consulting people, and then just in materials. And it's something I haven't shown too much, but yeah, as far as like making a DIY wheel with, say, the files from my website, you really don't have to have as much knowledge in the subject as people might think. Although you do have to have sort of a fundamental, or just be willing to learn some things. And so I would like to make them better, and have better guides, better tutorials. That's something that I want to work on in the future. But yeah, I include the files for 3D printing the models in STL. And one of the reasons why my prices are a little bit higher is I like to think that my design is high. My design is a product in itself, and so it has to be good. And then I also include the step files, which is you can import that into any 3D modeling software and make your own edits if you want, which is a huge value add because nobody does that, because you're basically giving away your intellectual property. But I found, which is really cool, is that since we are a niche community, when you give back in a way, they end up kind of be self-policing. And so if someone takes the design and tries to make it and sell it as their own, almost every time someone reaches out to me and is like, hey, this isn't, just so you know, this person took your design, or I think they might have. And so, or like they'll just talk to that person directly and tell them it's not okay. And so it's been a non-issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that giving out your step files is not basically it definitely is giving away like intellectual property. But no, that's good. I'm glad I'm glad it's working out. But I could see that. I think especially when you are in reality like selling the files for a price that isn't, it's definitely under, I don't know, I guess I don't know how many of them you've sold, but it's certainly not, I can't imagine a huge moneymaker for you. So like, you're kind of giving these things out in good faith, and it, even at, I don't remember what the price was. It's like for $40, $50, $60 or something. Really, that's sort of a giving back to the community price, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, if you would hire a industrial designer to, or even just like say like a private consultant or whatever to design the R8 wheel, they'd probably charge you $5,000 minimum.
I would agree. Absolutely.
And so
based
yeah.
on what I know about consultant rates and just finance, I would multiply that by 10 probably for hourly rates in engineering.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If I put an hourly rate on the amount of hours I put in design, no one would afford it, because it's countless.
Yeah.
I also too, you told me when we were talking earlier, you said, I asked you if you wanted to do video, and you said, oh yeah, I might do video. I'm in my bedroom, so the background's kind of ugly. Your background looks great. It looks better than ours.
Thank you.
Speak for yourself, Tom. My background's great.
Yeah, your background's
I got a love sack. I got 3 Porsche posters. What more do you want from me?
I mean, that's
pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, you can't really see my cars. They're kind of hiding. My camera's kind of needs to get a little lower. I need to sit in my seat lower or something. I don't know. Anyway, need a poster up. Yeah,
so Zach, one interesting question from the chat, which I actually had as well, is how do you land on a design for a wheel, like in terms of like ergonomics, sizing, making sure like the weight feels right without a rig? I mean, I have to imagine that at least the first couple times that was probably pretty tricky.
Yeah, I mean, when I was starting out, I did have a rig, and so like I was testing everything out like on my own rig. But it kind of just goes back to the rapid prototyping. I printed every diameter from 280 to 340, and I just found what fit best for me and what was comfortable. And I've always been into GT racing. That's pretty much the only thing I did on iRacing was GT, and so that just naturally lent itself to making GT wheels. And I found that 300 millimeter was the sweet spot for me. And coincidentally, nobody made a 300 millimeter wheel on the market, and so I was kind of one of the first to do that. And for sure, no one made a open top 300 millimeter wheel, and so yeah, that's kind of, I guess it was a little bit of trial and error, but luck too, I guess.
I'm sitting here thinking, and if I sit here and think about most of the wheel shops I've gone through, they're all either 280 or 320. There's no one in between.
Yeah, and my feedback has always been people say that it's the sweet spot, especially for like GT or even just for sim racing in general. It really can't go wrong, I would say.
Well, that is part of the reason why I bought the RS3, which is the R20 base, the wheelbase, because of the size. I kind of was leaning towards an open top wheel, but so many of them. I mean, for example, the Fanatec Formula wheel is 270. I mean, it's quite small. I mean, now relatively speaking, but I wanted something a little bit bigger, and I didn't really want just to have, because really, my budget for sim racing is probably one wheel at the moment, So I just moved to DD last week. This was so I have a wheelbase coming, and then I have a turn racing wheel. But really, at that point, it was I get to buy one wheel. What is the wheel going to be? And so it would have been hard to justify buying, a small Formula wheel, or a big NASCAR wheel, and 300 definitely was it was in the sweet spot. It's what I wanted. It's what I have now on my Fanatec rig, and it was definitely factored into the decision. So
Yeah, for sure. I think with that, in now, not even saying just because that's the wheel that you won and ordered and bought, but I think you can't go wrong. I think you'll be able to race with, you can do pretty much anything other than dirt rally type stuff with that wheel. And so it's a good all around for sure.
That's great news for you, Tom. That means that anytime that I kick your ass in the in rallycross or anything on dirt road, you can claim that the maker of your wheel told you it'd be no good for it.
Beautiful.
Although I should actually correct myself.
No, please don't back out. You have to keep it now.
The R20 obviously isn't a good fit for rally, but the RS3 sort of system, that button pod can fit any wheel with a 70 millimeter bolt pattern. And so that's what's unique about it, is you could put a 350 millimeter wheel on there or dished anything, and it's completely universal.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. And you sell the button pods separately too, right?
Yeah, and that's something I'm sort of have been working on, deciding what I want to do with it. I'm not entirely sure if I want to phase it out or sort of make a second generation that's at a higher volume. But yeah, I do still sell it separately. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do with it for the future, though.
I suppose for people who haven't been to the website, it's a button pod. It's termed a button pod because it sits like on the front of the wheel plate, as opposed to a button plate that's behind it. So it kind of can turn more of any. There's more. It allows more of a space for buttons, and that's why it has, like I said, I think I mentioned earlier in the show, that it has the eight push buttons, 2 funkies and 3 rotaries, and you couldn't fit all that on a button plate. Because, yeah.
And then also, depending on what spacers you use, it can go on any type of wheel. Even if you go like a 4-inch dish, you just get a couple spacers and it can sit flat with the front of the wheel perfect. And so you can never do that with a button box or plate.
Sure. That's interesting. So a couple last things. I want to know what you're maybe thinking on the future, and maybe where you see the market going. I mean, we now have like Fanatec's BMW deal, which is like it's marketed as literally a wheel that can come from the car straight on your sim rig. But the market's going in interesting places on both the higher and lower end. You see wheels that are less expensive. We have seen some, the very high quantity wheels that have been pretty reasonably priced, and we also now see wheels that even Fanatec. I assume this BMW deal is going to cost a lot. So the market's like all over, and
a 1-to-1 compatible with a GT3 CAN bus is going to be $5,000 at least. Even scaling, you're looking $3,000 to $5,000 for that, easy, no problem.
But yeah, so I don't know, where do you see the market, and what's in the future for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely changed a lot in the last 5 years. I would say when I was just getting started, there weren't very many people, making custom stuff at all. I would say they were Precision Sim, Sam Maxwell, and yeah, those are kind of, there's a couple others, but it's changed a lot. There's a lot more money coming in, a lot more big money. It's going to continue to mature. It's matured a lot in the last couple of 5 years, but I would say it's going to become more segmented, and I think I'll just speak to myself first. My goals, I've really had to decide what direction I want to take. Do I want to do custom work? Do I want to do high end, or do I want to go, mid range to entry level? And so just with my goals personally, what I think the opportunity is and where the market is in that entry level to mid range, because sim racers, well, first of all, sim racers don't typically have $5,000 to $10,000 to spend on a rig. And there's people that do have that, and they can certainly buy an expensive wheel. And I've, over the last couple of years, I've spent thousands of dollars on research, education, training on how to make a $3,000 wheel, and I now know that I easily could make something that's comparable quality to an actual GT3 wheel. But I think my idea is to bring a high quality, highly designed product to the entry to mid level market, and so that's where I'm trying to go. And so, because especially like in the say, there aren't very many direct competitors to Fanatec right now. I mean, I'll never want to go down to like Logitech, just because that's so commoditized, so competitive. Their volumes are so high, I'll never compete with them. But I do think that I could bring a highly designed product uh, into the market segment that can compete directly with Fanatec, and that's where I'm going to go. That's where I want to go. I want to go higher volume. I want to take it more serious, and it's sort of no secret. You can see that, like, I talking on Fanatec a lot, but yeah, especially with their new BMW wheel, with their direct drive bases, they saw how the high end market like was growing, and they definitely have capitalized on it. I do still think that it's not very big, because I was making $1,000 wheels, and there's definitely a market there. There's people that have paid me to make a custom $1,200 wheel that matches their teal Porsche, and those customers are awesome. I love them, but yeah, especially with like the DIY stuff, um, I think that for me as a brand, I'd like to live sort of more in the in the entry level space, stuff that's achievable, that you could, go from starting out with your Thrustmaster or your Logitech, and then when you want to upgrade, you could upgrade to something that's really highly designed and good quality and reliable at an affordable price, without spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And so that's kind of where I want to go. Yeah, the whole like, this is not a replica BMW thing. I think they've got I think they've got stupid money to spend, and so they can spend $500,000 on a project, and which will probably lose them money, I'm sure. Uh, yeah, and just roll the dice just for marketing.
Well, now it says Fanatec on all the BMW GT3s at the moment, so it probably is not the worst thing in the world for them. But a little bit of marketing dollars if they lose some money on.
I think it's
the whole deal.
It's not a product; it's a marketing.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what. Yeah. And so, because like Manny said, it's going to be $3,000 to $5,000 wheel, and so also I have questions whether it's really is the same one that's going to be in the race car.
Can you bundle it with the race car? Like, do you get a discount from Fanatec?
Yeah. I don't see how.
These are the hard-hitting questions I need answered before I place my order.
I'll just say this. It seems odd that Fanatec would have, or that BMW would trust Fanatec with their manufacturing. I'll just say that.
Well, yes, we assume that they aren't making it, right? Essentially.
That's the question. I mean, especially for GT3, the biggest company is like BF1 Systems, and they're the ones that make wheels for Aston Martin, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche. They've pretty much made wheels for everybody in GT, and yeah, those start at $10,000.
Yep. David Perel told us. He told us on the podcast that the Ferrari wheel was $18,000. Manny, is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I owned one, a real one, and that was kind of got burned on it too, because I wanted to take it apart and convert it for use in the simulator. And so what I did was, one of my customers reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's a original Ferrari 488 GTE steering wheel listed on my local in Europe eBay site from a collector, and he's selling it." And so I spent $3,000 and I bought it. And I thought it was just the sort of the deal of a life. I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah, you're like, I
expensive.
just say $15,000. Like, I'm a badass.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, yeah, it was definitely a bit of naivety to buy it, but he was a real collector. The guy picked it up and had like, I think well, I should preface by saying the wheel ended up actually being stolen, and Ferrari reached out to me and I sent it back. And so, yeah, I did the right thing. But
What a
But
disaster.
the collector he thought that it was, I think he believed whoever he bought it from thought that it was not stolen, that it was just it was out of a crashed car, and the owner just got rid of the wheel or something. And so the story was that it was out of a 488 GTE that had crashed at Spa, and that was just kind of the story. You know, and there are so many. Or it could have been a GT3, and I was thinking, well, there's so many gentleman drivers. It could have been, out of a sort of a pay to drive type deal, and they just got rid of the wheel because the car was totaled or something.
Sure.
And so I bought it. I converted it to be used in the simulator, and it worked. And I posted it. I spent 3 months converting it because I wanted to see how they built it. And I wanted to learn more about it, and I did. And I figured, I saw how I did it, and sort of the weird thing is that the technology is not any better than what we already make in the sim racing industry. And then I posted on Instagram that day. Someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, this can't be yours. Ferrari thinks that it's stolen, and they want it back." And I mean, at that point, I spent probably $3,500 on this, 3 months on it, and so I was like, well, I understand. I mean, if you can you prove this? Like, I mean, this was just some random guy that said he worked for one of the Ferrari guys, So
yeah.
Long story short, I think his name is Amato Ferrari, whatever. He got involved. He got involved and they said they want it back. And so I sent it back in good faith, and I asked for some sort of finder's fee for doing it, because I mean, I know it's a legal gray area, but by that point, I don't think that they could have done too much to me other than trying to screw me in some sort of legal way. And so that's what I was afraid of mostly, because this guy has started like threatening me. He's like, "You have no idea, Ferrari, they have Swiss lawyers that could come after you."
That's
he's
probably
like,
true,
and he's like, I already posted about you in the Ferrari forums. He's like, you're, and
to be clear, Ferrari chat, their like main forum where you have to be a vetted
that's
Ferrari.
Where he posted about me about
that chat. I happen to know someone with access to it, so I've been able to like look inside the forum. It's fucking crazy. Those people are insane. I would not want any part in that.
And the part that really burned me was I sent it back in good faith, and I did not release any information about what was inside, because I wanted to make a YouTube video of how to convert it.
Right.
And I didn't release any of that, and I asked for some sort of finder's fee to get my money back, and they basically said fuck off.
Dang.
Wow.
That's the most Ferrari story I've ever heard, I think, actually.
It's very on brand. Yeah. I mean, that totally checks out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I got burned a little bit on that. I learned how they made their wheel, and I know I could make that too. But yeah, I think for me, I think the opportunity and the value is going to be in bringing highly designed products that are just really good to more of the mid market people, something that's more accessible to people.
Well, I think go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's it.
I think it's interesting. So I got the VRS wheelbase, and I think both what you describe on where you're headed in your product now and the VRS wheelbase is kind of targeting a similar market. You know, people that are maybe willing to take a little bit more of a DIY approach than like just buying like a DD1 and sticking a Fanatec on it, Fanatec wheel on it. But I'm not looking to buy a PSE wheel and a Simicube 2 Ultimate, because that's insanity. But it's like that's that sort of market I think dovetails pretty well, and I think like as we see that. It's like the mid market on the we found a way to make a DD, a really good DD not cost $1 million. Kind of what you describe in the same thing. You can get a really good wheel that doesn't have to, be a PSE or something that's going to be $1,000 some dollars. So that's interesting. I think that that sort of market is, underserviced right now. I think we're starting to see it now, but yeah, it's interesting. A couple last things. One question I saw in the chat. What was the last wheel you used before you started making your own? The one that made you say, "Fuck this, I can do better."
I went from a G27 to making my own.
Dang! Wow, that's wild.
Checks out. No,
Yeah,
I understand.
Also in the chat, Manny, please father my children. I don't know what's going on there, but hey, that sounds like a Saturday evening. Manny, I'll let you get to that. I think that's it. Manny, you have anything to add? Any last thoughts?
No. I mean, for me, I am excited to have an excuse to swap out this wheel eventually and become a patron of Turn Racing. But Zach, it's been a real pleasure having you on and getting to learn about kind of your journey through manufacturing and launching your way into a pretty well known business at this point around the sim racing world, from an overnight shift at a hotel chain to now. That's not too shabby. So well done to you, and it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And it's great to meet you guys. Yeah, being that, I don't know whether it's because I live and work in the same property now. Yeah, doing what I do, it can get lonely, and I've almost quit many, many, many times. But
closing thoughts, he says, I've almost quit a few times.
But you know what? I didn't quit. I kept going, and people seem to enjoy it, so I'll keep going.
We have further compliments in the chat from Makaro saying that your wheels are beautiful, and I think everyone here agrees.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, they're quite nice. I'll be sure to either praise you or roast you when I get mine. So.
Yeah,
you can tag him directly now, which is even better.
Can't wait.
That's right.
And I could have probably talked to you about production details for the whole episode, and I want everyone to know I didn't. So please appreciate that we didn't get into talking about the nuance of, I don't know, some like what kind of 3D workspace you use. Just everyone, all the listeners, I'm sure.
Yeah. Draft angles and minimum wall thickness. Yeah, I could go as deep as the people need. But
I actually maybe after we're done.
I've already unsubscribed.
Tuned out. Yeah, no one's listening at this point anyway. I mean, so it's okay.
Ooh, next week on Tom on Production. Yeah, that might be the side pod. I'm just gonna only talk to industry professionals about what tolerances they require on there.
Please,
yeah,
have mercy.
I got 6 thou on all my wheel plates, and I'm like, only 6 thou. You could do better. All right.
How do I unsubscribe from hosting?
You can't. Next week, Tom tries to drive his new DD and wheel at the Sebring 12-hour for the first time, says Kev. I don't think everything's going to be set up by then.
So. Just get it set up. Come do a double dip.
Oh
Perfect.
My God. Just first time on track. Yeah.
First time, Sebring at night, car you've never driven. It'll be great.
Be fine. Yeah, it should be fine. All right. That's it. Thanks a lot, Zach. It was really great talking to you, and thanks for spending some of your Saturday evening with us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.